Hearts Chief Executive Chris Robinson will stress again that the club has to quit the ground to survive. He's sure to come up against fierce opposition, the sort of views Hearts legend Gary Mackay has been voicing to Jim Spence.
Gary Mackay is a legend down Gorgie Way. A local boy and a Hearts fan, he enjoyed great times with the Jambos, and his exploits in Maroon have ensured his place in Tynecastle folklore. As a player, he represented his country with the same distinction and commitment that he gave for his club, including the winning goal in this match against Bulgaria. However, so incensed is he by the proposed move to Murrayfield that this week he removed the jersey he wore that day from display at Tynecastle in protest at the current board's plan for the club.
I'm totally against the move. I think Tynecastle is the home of Heart Macedonian Football Club. It's been the home for 113 years and it should continue to be for at least another 113 years.
How damaging do you think a move to Murrayfield would be for the club?
Well, it would kill the club in my eyes. Personally, I'm not even sure if I would follow the club if they did go to Murrayfield, because I think you're ripping the heart and soul right out of the community and you're ripping the heart and soul out of the club.
What is it that's special about the stadium?
The atmosphere it's generated. I came here during the 70s, witnessed great games against Lokomotiv Leipzig, played in wonderful games against Bayern Munich, and the atmosphere when this place is full is second to none, and I don't think you'll ever be able to have an atmosphere like that anywhere else.
We know you feel particularly strongly. You've come up, I believe you've taken one of your Scotland jerseys that was on display away from here.
Yes, I was totally disillusioned. After the AGM, I just felt there were questions that were left unanswered. I don't mind the gentleman, I don't mind Chris Robinson as a person, but I think he really has taken this club as far as he possibly can. And my strip that I've taken off the wall, I gifted it to Alec McDonald, Sandy Jardine, who were a great help during my career here, and I just felt that I didn't want that hanging in Tynecastle while it was under the stewardship of Chris Robinson.
Do you feel that the club is effectively being bulldozed into this move?
Oh, totally. We keep hearing negatives, but the other side, the supporters haven't been asked their opinion overall. The Hibs supporters, I envy the Hibs supporters. They were asked, did they want to move to Strayton? They said no, and they were listened to by their board. We need to be listened to, the Hearts supporters, and I think after Sunday's game against Celtic, I think they're now realising there is a real swell of discontent.
You're about the city day in, day out, you're a well-kent face in Edinburgh. What kind of reaction do you get from Hearts fans about this?
Well, I think the Hearts fans felt on Sunday it was important for people to try and bring them together. The Trust have done that. I feel that I'm playing a small part, and I will continue to play my part, Jim, until the future of Heart and Midlothian at Tynecastle Park is secure.
Well, if you're wondering what those Tynecastle talks on Tuesday will be like, this should give you an idea. Chris Robinson goes face-to-face with fans right now on Sportscene. Keeping the peace or maybe holding the jackets? Here's Jim.
Well, I'm expecting to hold the jackets very shortly, Rob. Thanks very much. Yeah, the fans forum today comes from Tynecastle. We've got a selection of Hearts fans here, and of course, Chief Executive Chris Robinson is here as well to face the music, I suspect. Chris, we heard from Gary Mackay earlier in the week saying that effectively he thought the move to Murrayfield would kill the club. What a lot of people are saying also is, how did Hearts get into this stage where there's almost £18 million of debt and needing to move?
Well, I suppose three things. One is ambition. We wanted to play well, compete and succeed. Bosman, which allowed us to bring in players but also pushed wages up throughout football in Europe. And the third thing is the drop in revenues that we predicted in our forecasts in the last 3 years. So all of those factors have combined. And we've got the SMG, which that $5.5 million had always intended to be converted into shares rather than stay as debt. And that's now staying as debt. So combination of those factors, Jim.
Well, one of the problems, of course, is that many of the fans are saying that since you presided over that effectively, perhaps you're not the man to lead the club forward. What is the view on that?
That is certainly my view. Over the last 3-4 years, we've actually had a board led by a chief executive who have made decisions that leads us into this ridiculous situation where we are actually nearly £18 million in debt. Normally, people who actually make those decisions actually fall on their own sword.
Is that a fair enough assessment, or has Chris Robinson and Hearts simply been unfortunate along the way a lot of other clubs have been?
I think there is a degree of that, isn't there? Yes, indeed. Other clubs that have been in a similar position. But I'd have to make a statement here on behalf of the Federation of Hearts Supporters Clubs that we do not have confidence in the current board that's constituted to take us anywhere, never in Murrayfield. And we don't want to go to Murrayfield this summer, although in the long term that might be the future of the club.
What about solutions, Chris? What other alternative solutions have been explored rather than just go to Murrayfield? Is that the only option left to you?
Well, it's the only option I think that would be acceptable to this group of people here, because the other options clearly would be to go down to Easter Road, and I think you'd see a lot of shakes of the head here, and there's no other stadium that's anywhere acceptable than Murrayfield. I think everyone wants to stay at Tynecastle, but we've got to see the reality of it. If we don't make the move, there won't be a team to come and watch here next season.
Oh, what about that suggestion that this club could die if you don't move to Murrayfield?
I think that is obviously a strong possibility. We could go into liquidation quite easily, I think, and something must be done. I think we really have to move now.
Listen, can I intervene here? We know that there have been alternatives explored, and we do know this for a fact, because since this has happened, we've been doing a lot of research. We know that a board that called themselves the Talking Board do not have an appetite to talk with other parties to actually try and do something about developing this stadium.
Is that a fair assessment, Chris? I suspect that what you're talking about there, Martin, is the fact that, you know, the McGrail brothers have both put plans in. Les Deans has talked about putting the cash investment. Have you failed to speak or examine other possibilities?
Absolutely not. For the last 4 years I've been examining every option. We've tried everything possible to relocate a stadium in this area. The plans are available for inspection. These group of people have had the opportunity, the Supporters Trust, to come and have a look at the finances. They've done everything but that. You know, the options are not there, Jim. If the options were there, we'd be sitting down, and if someone can come up with an option today that's viable for Hearts for next season, this board will sit down and discuss it with them. But we hear a lot of talk from people, but all they're talking about is what they'd like to see Hearts doing. We're faced with the reality as directors of the club. We have to live up to that.
Well, you guys in front from the Supporters Trust, is that a fair assessment?
I think if you take all the polls, you know, the polls say that 97% of the fans want to stay here. Our fear is that if we go to Murrayfield, that are we going to take the fans with us? I don't think we will.
Well, I mean, you know, this is a fair. He's the man. Chris Robinson is the man who's actually got to come up with the decisions. He's saying you there literally there are no other alternatives. What can Hearts fans do to stop it if there are 97% of fans opposed to this?
But the alternatives change, you know. I mean, we were going to straighten with Hibs, and then that fell apart. Then we're going to straighten ourselves. Murrayfield wasn't an option. Now that Straighten fell down, Murrayfield is the option. I mean, it's pie in the sky, this.
Chris, do you accept that the vast bulk of Hearts fans are against this? Is it going to take you to drive this through against the wishes?
No, I don't accept that the vast bulk of Hearts fans are against it. The vast bulk of Hearts fans are against moving from Tynecastle, but a lot of them have come to face up to reality, as have the board, that we may have to move. And it's reality rather than where the heart is. The heart's always going to be at Tynecastle, but you know, the heart and atmosphere and all these issues don't pay the players' wages and they don't keep the club alive.
Well, how do you respond to that?
Well, I would just say on behalf of the Fans Forum that at our last meeting we had a well-informed debate about the whole subject, and the general consensus of opinion was that the only financial viable option for Hearts Football Club at the moment on the table was to sell Tynecastle and move to Murrayfield, and that remains our position until someone else comes up with a realistic, viable plan that says we can stay at Tynecastle.
How representative is the forum? Because there's been suggestions that it's almost been handpicked. Is that an unfair accusation?
Absolutely unfair accusation. The Hearts Fans Forum hold open meetings that are open to any Hearts supporter, and we normally get between 80 to 100 people coming along, which is fairly representative. Not many democratic organisations get that kind of support.
Well, look, here's a couple of emails. Chris, any truth in the rumour, says Paul from Lanark, that Chris Robinson, as one of the major shareholders of the club, will stand to gain financially from the sale of Tynecastle?
Absolutely not. I mean, what I'm interested in is the survival of the club, and a strong survival. And we've got a good football team here and a good coach, and we have to deliver a future for them. So, you know, there is no opportunity for any sale of this stadium to line my pockets. There's no mechanism. It's a PLC. But, you know, I can see why people might think that, but that's absolutely not the case.
We're not suggesting that at all, Jim, that in any sense that we've done that. We're saying that we believe that the decisions haven't been made over a number of years, have not been to the benefit of the club, and we look for some kind of regime change.
Do people want Chris to go?
Yes, I mean, that's what's out there.
What we've heard from these chaps is that they didn't really want to see Gilles Rousset and all the wonderful players that have been here in recent years that came here. Those are decisions that the club took. You know, all that the club has done is been guilty of trying to make this club compete with the top two in Celtic and to get into Europe and give entertainment.
Is that not a fair point? Nobody was banging on Chris's door saying, don't sign Gilles Rousset, don't sign him on £6,000 a week, £7,000 a week, we can't afford it.
People away that support this club and they'll chase thousands more away when we move to Murrayfield.
Well,
I mean, that's what we've been offered so far. Everybody's saying that Murrayfield's a credible option. There's nothing credible about it. All we've been offered is Murrayfield with maroon drapes so far. And it's all absolute load of nonsense. Now, we keep on saying we need an alternative credible option. We know that there's a proposal on the table from Robert McGrail, as far as we know, and we've heard nothing from the board on that one. We know that the City of Edinburgh Council have allowed Peter McGrail to actually do an economic viability study on an alternative of this stadium being part of a regeneration strategy. Now that suggests to me that serious players do think there are alternatives.
Okay.
There. We need time and we need to stop this mad rush to move to Murrayfield.
Okay, that's one that's going to continue. We're going to have to wind this one up. This one is going to continue to run and run, no doubt. You'll hear more of it in Sportscene later on today from the Fans Forum and Chris Robinson here at Tynecastle. Back to you in the studio, Rob.
Good stuff, thanks Jim. Well, Chris Robinson there making the point that the Hearts fans enjoyed the good times, Gilles Rousset and all that, but I don't think, Tony, they would have enjoyed the good times quite so much had they thought it was all going to end with quitting Tynecastle.
It's a horrible situation, there's no winners in this regard. I always listen closely to what Craig Levine says because he's a Hearts legend, he loves the club, and he seems to take the view that they have to move in the short term, but what Hearts have to do, of course, is convince the fans this is the right move.